Hey everybody, welcome to Between Two Servers, the show where we talk about multiplayer, game development, and netcode. Here today is Nicola Geretti, founder and CEO of Superbit Machine, creators of Armajet. Welcome to the show, Nicola.
Happy to be here, Glenn.
Cool. So tell me, how did you get started in games, Nicola?
Oof, okay.
Big
late
question.
90s, like many folks started getting, flat internet. You didn't have to pay whatever, a couple bucks per minute, then got my computer in the 90s and, really started getting into shooters. My first big game I played online, I think it was Quake, some version of Quake, maybe Quake 2, maybe Quake World. And then really got
Q1
into
test or
Quake
go
3.
home.
Right, exactly. Yeah, exactly. when you could do it on a 28.8 or whatever we had at the time. Quake 3 was really my jam at one point, probably 1999, something like that. And really got into the scene. I was living in Italy. I was born and raised in Italy for 20 years before moving now to Los Angeles. And at the time, just like many folks my age at the time, well, I guess it was 15, 16, just had a lot of fun doing it, discovering communities online, and I got pretty good at it. Started getting to, bring in my big heavy CRT to LAN tournaments nearby, feeling that energy of competition and swearing, but in person.
Back when the Sony Trinitron was like,
I did have a Trinitron.
Oh my God.
It was so heavy.
And it had those two lines, and it was just like, technically we can't do anything about it. That's why it's good.
Yeah, but it had
it was way better than everything else.
But it had something like 120 hertz or 144, and that made all the difference apparently. Yeah. So anyway, I did that, and then in early 2000s, switched. Played other games, and Unreal Tournament started becoming more of my jam. And then started competing. Actually got into. I was studying at the time. Kind of put my few I guess euros. Then we switched to euro at that point. And started competing. Got my first flight to a small tournament in Spain. Got second place there. Felt really jazzed up about being the second best in Europe. And
that kind of cool.
And that got this just kind of took off. Right at that point, I started qualifying for more international tournaments, and it really culminated with the WCG at the time. Was called World Cyber Games. They had They had a tournament every year and went to Seoul, Korea, and won the world championship for Unreal Tournament in 1v1 duel style. And at the time it was like 20 grand. That's like the most money I'd ever made.
That is a lot of money in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, I was 17, something like that.
I understand, just like Drew McCoy, you have a large novelty check. Is it up on your wall?
Yeah, in Italy, yes, it's somewhere.
In Italy.
I remember having trouble bringing it on the plane because they're like, no, we can't do this. Like, this is you can't. This was after 9/11 or less. So they just did not want to have anything that wasn't just a small bag on the plane. But somehow I found a flight attendant that was really nice to me and left it in like this cubby. So I brought it home. Very happy. At that point, things kind of took off for me a little bit, and I started getting some sponsors. Reaching out to me, and this is like after the .com bubble burst, right? It's like 2002, 2003.
Party is over, everybody.
Right. So a lot of sponsors were really not putting money online, right? So only some of the strictly endemic sponsors, or like Intel, Nvidia, really started continue putting money in online and games, and so I started getting some minor sponsorship, and then more of the bigger one, and then I was able to finally actually make it more of a full-time thing.
That's awesome. So you're in LA now. How did you get from Italy to LA?
So after a few championships, I attended one in New York. It was the first big televised tournament. MTV. MTV was still a thing. So they televised this tournament, and that's actually where I met my wife. I mean, not my wife. And this was still when I was living in Italy, and so it really took off very quickly. And then I moved out to LA, and she actually helped me find a way to basically get my work visa.
That's awesome, man.
In the States.
Congratulations.
So that was my adventure. It was a big risk, but obviously it was really worth it. At least it felt for me at the time, and I'm certainly happy that I did. And at that point, games and online games and esports were a little bit on the, there were not many tournaments, so there really wasn't an easy way for me to like actually make a living. At the time, it wasn't like South Korea, where like in the 2000s you could turn on the TV and you would see StarCraft, right? This is not that. And so you have to win. You have to go to tournaments, you have to win, and then that's how you make your money. So I kind of pivoted at that point and started doing online work, and that's part of where the work visa came into play. I started doing work for online properties, a show which my wife was working with. They needed a website, and so I started getting into more of the development side. Right.
So you're actually an engineer.
Yeah. So my background is in electrical engineering. There's some programming there, not nearly as much as what I deal with today.
That's a tough degree to get. They put you through the ringer on that. So I respect anyone with that degree.
A lot of capacitors blew up. A lot of fun doing
amplifier works.
Yeah,
no,
exactly.
Really, how does it work?
But yeah, it was I kind of transitioned there, and I mean that's kind of where I first started working by myself, as in actually finding getting contracts, getting clients, making websites. And this is like what, 2005, 2006. This is like MySpace days, right? Like everybody wanted to have a
second wind is coming. Facebook, Google, it's all like, well, hold on, this tech thing is still going.
Yeah, this is like right pre-Facebook. I think everybody wanted to have a social media website. They're like, oh, this is it, So, got my few clients that wanted to make social sites, whether it's like Flash was like all the rage at the time. So interactive visual, So, got to learn that
Welcome to tonight's episode of We're Old with Glenn and Nicola Geretti.
So I made a bunch of stuff like that. And then this is like 2009, 2010, I think that's when Facebook started offering apps and games online, and they opened up the platform to developers, right? And so I wanted to desperately get back into games, not so much as a player anymore. I recognize that the time has kind of shifted.
It's a great industry to be in, and I mean, I went in and out of games myself, and like did some business stuff for a while around the same time you were doing stuff. And you just want to get back in.
Well, I remember this is like 2009 and Twitch came out. I mean, Twitch became Twitch in 2014, but like right when Justin TV was a thing, in between Twitch, like there wasn't a whole lot of, well, let's just say that it would have been hard for me to like actually make a business out of just playing games online and devoting your 8-10 hours a day of boot camp and just playing. So I'm happy that I took that route. But what happened was a few folks from EA Los Angeles, that were doing basically like social mobile games. This is right before the App Store came out. And so they split off and wanted to make their own thing. And they didn't have any technical experience. And so that's where I came in as a technical co-founder. And so we founded this startup called Buffalo Studios. This is all like friends and family kind of money, not big VC round. And so we had this
how old are you at this point?
So this is 2010. So I'm 25. Yeah. 35.
That's very impressive, Nicholas. So raising money and founding a company
big
at
risks,
25.
and I got lucky. That's really what it is.
Okay.
And so
Very
right
cool.
place, right time. So that got interviewed, basically. I mean, we were there, and they didn't really have any technical experience. So I came in, and this is like 3 people basically, still no paint on the walls kind of place. You actually know where that place is, right in Santa Monica. It's like next to a cement factory. Like we had to like close the shades before, it's just like
I'm pretty confident that I biked past that cement factory on my way home from sunny Santa Monica for 5 years.
That's probably right. This is right before they made this the train station there. So they were just working on this. So they were really busy with that cement factory for years. So we got there. And basically, our product at the time was a bingo game, of all things. This is definitely not my genre. But the idea behind it was good. And what really was cool for me is that this is real-time multiplayer. This is obviously not a shooter. This isn't a super fast-paced FPS like Quake, but how do you bring real-time multiplayer on the web? The time there really was not much.
So what year was this when you were first starting?
This is 2010.
2010. Well, this is way back. Like this is the time when AAA game devs and console devs were basically thumbing their nose at free-to-play and web-based games and Facebook games. This was before Zynga, before King, Candy Crush absolutely destroyed everything and took over. the traditional devs, of which I was a part, not that I was doing, but we're really looking down on these casual games and
Oh yeah.
look
I
over the
mean,
next 10 years.
yeah, I mean, look, I myself got in and be like, how, even the idea of having a bingo game where folks would pay money to pay for bingo chips and get nothing back was like, people are really gonna do this? Like, it's crazy, like you don't want to pay once and be done with it.
Have you heard of a thing called gambling, Nicola?
So yeah, it turns out it's, and what about Farmville, right? Farmville was
Yeah.
just about to take off, right? That there's a, sunk cost fallacy of the game is incredible, right? There's so much. Anyway, so this thing, I put together a team. At first, everything was outsourced, and then realized this is not working. So I started hiring. And this is now like, who are you going to hire for like web 2.0, I guess, real-time multiplayer. So there were a lot of folks at the time that actually came from Disney, because Disney was one of the early industries that were interactive and online.
Was this Flash based under the covers, or
yeah?
Or okay, so you're using
Flash based. So this is like ActionScript 3 kind of stuff, which is like I don't know, between Java and JavaScript, if you will.
Yeah.
It's not a bad programming language, but it's very niche, and you got to find people from like interactive. This is like mostly like ex-Disney people that did online games at Disney. There were not many industries in LA that did that, or even advertising. So you really couldn't find games people, to make this. And so I was fortunate enough to have a gaming background, at least as a player, where like I could tell, okay, well, this is something that it's not going to go. So, hired some folks, certainly made some hiring mistakes early on, but ultimately grew the team. We got to maybe 10, 15 people, launched the game. This was like end of 2010. And we had this, massive network effect, because Facebook, this is when like they were just, if you remember, this is when
Facebook games were going crazy. Like everybody was consuming games and sending notifications to everybody. And my aunt was being really annoying, trying to get me to play Candy Crush with her and all that. It was crazy. And it's been, the virality of it has been so tamped down.
Yeah, this is probably when you got somebody asking you to water their crops, right? In Farmville, et cetera. So our approach was a little bit different, but still, network effect really helped us. Look, it was right place, right time, right product.
So you got a good exit.
That was evergreen.
You got a good exit out of that. How did that company work out?
Yeah, so we grew the team there from like 3-4 people all the way to 120, 140, and then 2 years in, we started getting some offers, and ultimately got an offer from Zynga was one of them, and we decided to go with Caesars Interactive, which at the time was basically was just us and Playtika, which is now much bigger, and ultimately really as the umbrella company for all the interactive stuff, and that was really the high growth vertical for Caesars, much more than their casinos or just about anything else, which is why they split it off as another entity. And it was incredible. I mean, this is like 2 years in. This is now I'm like,
now you're 27. You've got a
now
great
I'm like,
accent.
oh, this is how it always goes. This is normal. This is like, of course. Like
very few people experience.
It was like, oh, build it and they will come. This is obviously how it works. So obviously having a good time. I mean, the part that I really enjoyed the most was building the team, like finding the people and getting them together and getting them to be productive and happy. And it's something that I recognize with the company. So then later on,
you've now effectively transitioned from an esports player to somebody doing web development, a full stack developer, and now you're in technical management, building up an engineering team.
Yeah, it's I mean, I still played a lot, right? But it's at this point, it's I just think I did enjoy the technology, but I did enjoy seeing other people being able to consume it and translate it into a product. And what really was a rush for me is just seeing the millions of players being able to consume your game. It's incredible. And we had people that got their, we had a mascot that was a cat. Which was perfect for our audience and still is around. They have music videos with it, and people would like get tattooed of their real tattoos of the cat. Crazy. People got married, by chatting in the game. It's like we change people's lives, and so I stopped thinking about it as a bingo game and more of a look. We created an experience where people come and really enjoy it, and the fact that I was that I could change it so quickly was incredible in a startup anyway, right?
That's the thing. Like, what is the killer app for every platform? being together with other people over a distance, right? Having some sort of community created, and this is a trend I think has continued. And you look at Fortnite. Is it a game? Is it a hangout? Right? Like,
well, the courts, I think, have said it's a game, but yeah, it's an experience, right? It's Roblox calls it it's experiences, right? It's not games, and so it's true. I mean, we're definitely merging into that.
And now we're in the middle of this metaverse hype as well here in 2021, and it feels like games are steamrolling towards experiences and things. So it really proves out the the thesis that you had back then and the experience you had with this bingo game that you made. It's much more than just that game. So what did you do next, mate?
So stayed at the company for 2 more years. I actually transitioned from, we actually hired someone right as a VP of tech right before the acquisition, because we wanted to frankly position ourselves as a company to be acquired for more. Ultimately we sold it for collectively 100 million. And then to actually transition over on the product side, because I really wanted to drive a little bit more of the initiatives and how the platform's there, right? We're expanding it, but it works, right? And so now we have a team that can continue building upon it. We actually became more of a platform as a service team for Caesar's contents, and I wanted to move the product. And so for the next 2 years, I really worked on more of the product director team for the game, and actually for smaller other game production we'd made there. And it was a formative experience, much more about politics than maybe doing actual work, but it was important. And I think that was really something that got me understanding how to talk to stakeholders, right? To folks that really, whether it's new hires that maybe are C-level hires or just folks that have been there for some time, and how do you deal with them? And I think that was I'm very happy that I made that transition, because I think it helped me then do what I did next.
So at age 27, you're managing people, working with people in a production capacity.
I'm not saying I'm doing a good job, but I certainly am trying.
It does take time to learn. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, good on you. So now you have your own idea, and you start thinking about risk versus reward. What's going in through your head right now after 2 years at this company?
So now it's 2013, 2014. I think, we're looking at the App Store that's out for 2-3 years. I have a phone like everybody else. We're kind of checking out the apps. We actually deployed.
Such a gold rush. Such a fucking gold rush.
We made the bingo game for the phones and tablets, of course, right? It was a perfect fit. And I'm looking at the ecosystem and seeing that there's no games that I would like to play, right? And I'm classic PC player, maybe some console, right? Maybe not shooters on console necessarily, but I'll definitely play my fair share of games. And there's just nothing on the phone that I really would like to play. There's no real shooters on the phone. There's like a couple of examples that feel like clunky 3D ports with like a million touch, a million buttons on the screen. It's just not something I want to try. And so
it's got to be native. You can't take the experiences of a PC with a mouse and a keyboard. And
it's kind of like, what did Halo do, or GoldenEye or Halo do for the Xbox? Like they changed the game design, right? I mean, Halo is mostly, it has aim assist. There's mostly
it brought on auto aim, the whole dual stick controller design is brilliant.
Yeah, even the fact, like, to me, to this day, it still blows me away, because right now it's standard. But like, just the fact that with the right trigger you fire with your right hand, and with the left trigger you cook and throw a grenade. It feels so real and so visceral.
Very clean.
Very clean. Very
I still to this day, because of playing the original Halo and getting kind of baptized in that way.
Yeah, exactly. So like,
I still prefer the triggers on the Xbox controllers, and I'm a Sony guy, right? But the triggers on the Xbox controllers just have always had that feel.
I really like the bare hands controller, because I guess I always love that one. So
bare hands as in huge hands, or
although as in a huge controller. Remember the first one, the first Xbox?
the Western controller.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that one.
Well, those Americans, they have gigantic hands. Here's your controller. Yeah,
exactly. So, I thought Bungie did something incredible, right? So I think, at the time I really thought, look, there's someone's going to do something. Someone's going to bring core games on the phone. I think there's an audience that is growing up now that is, they're preteen, tween, maybe even teen, that just they don't have a PC. They don't have a console.
So
their gaming device is their phone, right? Or their tablet they got from 2-3 years old that their parents don't know what to do with anymore, right? And they give it to them. So look, there's clearly a growing audience. There's just no product for them. And so, I'm still at Buffalo at this point, right? And so I decided with my co-founder, also working Buffalo at the time, say, hey, like we can do something here. And I had no idea how to make a shooter. Like, I played shooters, but I had no idea. Like, I have no idea how to connect to. I mean, I knew how to connect two players together, but I don't know how to make a run.
Big learning curve. Yeah.
Huh? Yeah, bingo.
Big
Exactly.
learning curve on that. Massive.
Yeah, it's a glorified chat room with like a bunch of things you click on a card, right? So how do you even start? And so, the big thing for me was, look, first let's make it like a, kind of like a PC game real quick. Let's just see if we can get the networking going. And then like, okay, let's see if we can put it on a phone. I think at the time it was like iPhone 4. We need to make it run at 60 frames per second. 30 is just not smooth enough.
No, you need 60.
And
see if we can get... I will fight you at 30. Yeah.
And so you can, let's get them to connect together. And I think once we got to that as a small prototype, then we're like, okay, it can be done. And one of the big goals for me was, I just didn't want to have a game where you have to look at where you put your fingers on the screen or where you touch on the screen, because it just didn't feel mobile native. It didn't feel natural. And so we got to a point where we had a prototype.
So you don't like those virtual buttons and the scroll and the controllers.
Right. You already have your fingers on the screen. Like, you should look at the action, not look at where you're putting your fingers, right?
Yep.
Again, now maybe the landscape has changed. Kids now do some crazy stuff. They do like, they do claw now, which is like they hold their phone and it's just like,
they're like that on the screen.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like now there's controller support, but at the time there was no such thing. So yeah, let's do this. So we got some prototypes together. Clearly it worked. This is, right after basically myself and my co-founder decided to leave the company after earn out, after we got, so we're in a position where, we're relatively comfortable, like obviously we're definitely taking a big risk, but we were fortunate enough that we made a good chunk with the sale of the company. Look, this is not for everybody. We were lucky enough to be in that situation, right? And I keep thinking like how do people do this kind of stuff? Like my mantra is very much like, nobody knows what they're doing. They're just trying, like, even unless you've done the same thing for the last like 10, 20 years, like, you don't really know what you're doing.
Game development is literally, as an engineer,
so I'm like,
it's the process of doing what you have no idea what you're doing. And
precisely. And I think that expands into beyond games, but it's true. It's crazy, right? It's very much a hits-driven business. And so, we once we had something in our hands that worked, we're like, okay, listen, we'll, like, what do we do now? And so I started reaching out with some people that I knew from esports. And it's funny, like what your hobby is today, it's going to become an industry 10 years from now, and so when I was playing the 2000s, I had folks like me that they were competing together, and now they actually raise some money and have a company that does competitions for Counter-Strike. I didn't even know this. And so
this was the Face It crew?
Yeah. So one of my friends, Nicola Geretti, is CMO of Face It, and he so he reached out among other folks as well, but he was able to introduce me to a VP at Activision, of all people. And so, like, I thought, okay, this is it. This is awesome. Like, we're gonna go in, we're gonna pitch it. We have no idea what we're doing, right? And so the thing with the game is, this is like a very clunky prototype, and that runs on an iPhone. Like, we wanted to show playing, and this is a 4v4 game. So this is still bootstrap. And so what we did is we just basically asked friends and family for their devices, like iPads, Android devices. And so we come to Activision, once we go through a few calls, and we go downstairs and like basically where they do like external testing, and so and we have no idea who we're going to meet or anything. To just tell us, like,
this is the offices in Santa Monica near the airport.
Yeah, this is the central Activision, right? This is from Treyarch, whatever. And so we come in, we're like, this is the first pitch. Like, this is the first pitch with Activision. We're like, This is gonna be great. And so we go in and we put all our devices, like all kind of weird devices. Some have a low battery. It's just like very bootstrap, very very shoestring. And so we come in, and then we start seeing people come in, and I remember like recognizing some folks, because not everybody was introducing as their titles. And like we're there with like Rob Kostic, so like the main lead for like all the Call of Duty games, plus some other folks there. So we're like, again, we had no idea what we were getting into.
Yeah.
And we show the game, they play a couple of rounds, they're excited, whatever, but they tell us this is cool. This is like the first like stab at mobile games as Activision. This is still this is just about, I think this is like right at the point where like they buy King, so this is like 2015, 2016. And so, as Activision, they want to make a mobile game, clearly, right? Little did I know that it took, 6 years later to get, 5 years later to get Call of Duty Mobile out, right? But I think that was their objective at the time, right? To make a 3D shooter on the phone. And so, we do our testing there, and then ultimately, I think, it went well enough that, we got introduced to more folks that were more interested in that. And so, this is kind of how we figured out how to navigate the investor sphere and ultimately VC. So.
Right.
Investors, like, their trade is information, right? Like the capital is the vehicle that they use to, ultimately, acquire equity, but like they exchange information. That's their trading. So, we realized, shortly afterwards that like, even if we keep getting no's, as long as we have a good presentation, we're confident about our message.
They definitely talk. Good or bad, they talk.
Yeah, which I was absolutely convinced, and clearly that conviction came through to the meetings that ultimately I get introduced from A to B from B to C.
Yep.
And so this is mid 2016, and
you're out pitching your concept now.
Constantly.
How many do you think you did?
I mean, at least I don't know, maybe 20. Something like that, and this is like, maybe more during calls, but often would be in person. This is pre-COVID, right? So, this is like,
I remember those days.
You remember those days?
Yeah.
We still remember the pre-internet days. Soon enough, this generation doesn't. So we go to E3, we go to general conventions. I have a backpack with a router.
Yep.
And like a bunch of devices, and I just go around with it like all charged up, and that's our pitch. It's like literally come here, and this was so cool because it's like before
the
this,
immediacy of handing the device to someone and having them use it.
It's
so
awesome.
A really strong pitch.
This is like LAN party on the go, right? And this is like kind of what we're trying to sell with, like, you could do this on the phone, like, and most folks, like, whether they were players or they were investors, like, they didn't know that this was even possible. Like, they knew about mobile games and knew that they were like clearly making money. This is free to play, obviously getting big at this point. But I remember we went to a Google competition, their first thing in San Francisco. Must have been like 2016, 2017. And we brought our game and won an award there. But most people that came, this was open to the public, most people that came in tried the game on a few like tablets we had out there, and was like a 4v4, 2v2, I don't remember. And people were like, but wait, like, am I playing with this guy right next to me? Like, they were just blown away by the fact that they could just have a shooter game they were playing against each other, and it wasn't a console, So this is the expectations I had to match, or like at least I had to exceed. So, maybe 6 months, 12 months later, we ultimately find somebody that is willing to put to basically give us a YC note. So they weren't going to raise our seed.
A safe, simple agreement for future equity.
Yeah. So it was safe. Cool. We
for everyone on the call not versed in the capital raising like myself and Nicola, the safe is an alternative for a convertible note that's an equity instrument, not a debt instrument, and is a lot simpler to sign and read and whatever than doing a fully priced round. So it's a very convenient way to invest in a company before it makes sense to set a valuation on that company.
It's basically, here's a piece of paper. If you find somebody that's willing to put a lot more money, you got my money. And you can convert it now if you need the money. We were like running low. So we were like, we might have to take this soon, right? And then basically we got into conversations. It's funny, we talked to an investor that, was not well, let's just say we got to know it first. And then they introduced us
Right.
to somebody else, which said yes. And then they come back like, okay, we're in, and that's really often what it takes. It's like,
That's
if,
the thing. It's like,
if
no,
somebody's is willing to take the risk, then the rest of it comes out much easier. Once you have somebody that is willing to lead your seed. And so once we got to that point, it was
finding the lead is absolutely critical now. So again, for everybody else on the call, I think this has now become between two term sheets. The idea is when you move past the convertible note or a safe equity stage, you need a lead who prices and values your company, and they set the terms in a term sheet, and then other people may follow in that round, but they follow at the terms negotiated with the lead of the round.
And yeah, so we got the terms. We got some lawyers involved, did all that stuff. This is our first time doing this. We're just excited
term sheets.
We're just excited to get like any money. Anybody that, because for this point we just want validation. I just want to know that
this is
what I think
someone believes in us.
Is something that people do believe, and I think the first group that trusted us and gave us the safe, this was Ludlow Ventures out of Detroit. Mm-hmm. And to this day, they're some of the more bullish investors we've ever had, and they're amazing. They're the ones that first were doing that, and then ultimately led to, bringing in more bigger investors like Index Ventures, who led.
Index is a top tier fund. That is an incredibly high quality.
Yeah,
fund.
we talked to a few folks, and we had conversations. I'm not even sure if I can say, but
that's an incredibly good investor. I mean, I'm extremely impressed.
We were, again, this is like
a seed round. You got them on a seed round.
So we got them to co-lead in the seed round, and then they fully led the Series A shortly after that. So we kind of preempted the Series A because they recognized that investing in this kind of content really required
people on this show. Look, it's incredibly rare. More so today. It's happening today now in 2021. But wind back the clock, what was this, 2015?
This is, 2016.
2015, 2016. It's extremely rare for investors, top tier investors, to invest in what potentially could be a content play being, in this case, a studio making games.
Yeah.
So, that's incredible.
Yeah, this is
that you raise money.
I think at the time we were riding the wave of esports and esports on mobile kind of coming in big, and we were big believers in it, and obviously that has manifested in many ways. Now you see more of the big, really large players coming in strong.
I think you can raise a content play with VCs in 2021, clearly, with the right track record.
Not unless you're backed by
but you've got
NFT and blockchain. I don't think.
So
you really are betting on the platform.
I've seen some folks like I've seen some ex-Riot people raise very, very quality rounds with top tier investors on sometimes content, but I think the thing is that often the person who's raising has already had a high quality exit.
Yeah, so Singularity guys, right? They raised.
Another good example would be Mountaintop with Nate Mitchell, one of the original co-founders of Oculus, right? I mean, that's a no-brainer for VCs out there.
So yeah, you bring up a good point. It's like investors are betting on the founders, right? So if you have a good history, they're the project and the idea, of course, that there's clearly there needs to be an opportunity, but if they're believers on your story, you're good at telling it, and you have the numbers to back it up. I mean, I don't think that I would have been able to raise had it not been for a really positive exit with Buffalo, right?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
There's just no way.
I certainly
maybe, but
I mean,
I think there needs to be some kind of back.
There's definitely something that says this, and I'll say kid. This kid at this point, like this kid he's done something really incredible. Had a strong exit. There's potential here. This guy's worth backing, right? Things are going to happen, and I'm sure that's what we've been going through their minds. For me, I raised pretty late after working at Respawn and Sony Santa Monica, and again, like without my 20-year career of working in games and multiplayer, I don't think I would have even gotten safes.
Timing was definitely of the essence. I think had we done the same play, a year later, or maybe even 2 years later, I think would have been far different. So there's always time.
That secular trend going on that really helps you be the right place at the right time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So now we have, again, we were excited to even get somebody to be able to commit $100,000-$300,000, right? But you know, in a month or so, we close out our seed. And so now we have enough money to set up the studio. This is what I wanted to do. I kind of, you know, I had some experience building a team. I wanted to do it again, but getting people from, you know, more specifically from the games industry, to make, you know, a real core real-time game on the phone. And turns out it was really hard. Turns out it was not everything I knew. I mean,
I will say
technically, but man,
like you close a round, right? Especially a seed round, you close an A round. It feels like it's the hardest thing you've ever done. Now you've got to actually execute.
No, that's right? That's really the easy part.
It's just beginning. Yeah, it's just beginning.
Yeah. Now it's like, okay, where do I find the people? Who do I want? You know, obviously that was part of the deck, right? We knew how big a team we wanted. We knew the roles we wanted to fill. But yeah, good luck finding a network programmer that
almost impossible
stuff.
And I will say as well, like on this call, like you know, every single person that I interview on Between Two Servers, without exception, they're hiring network engineers but can't find them, right? Yeah. And how do you get around the inability to hire experienced network engineers, Nicola? What was your strategy?
So, I mean, you know, we used recruiters. Nothing there. I mean, we certainly talked to a lot of folks, but everybody we talked to ultimately pointed us to somebody that was already at the big companies. They were at EA, they were Activision, they were already doing what they were doing, and they had massive retention packages because EA and Activision and Riot and everybody in the industry, at least in LA, knew that that's what you need. That's who you want to keep, right? So there was no way us as a small, very risk-prone company with some financial backing are going to be able to offer, you know, financial stability for these guys. That just like why, you know? So yeah, we did have to do a lot of research on our own and find alternative ways. And I think, you know, as a suggestion to anybody getting into this, like, try to be as public and loud about your project as you can, because don't
hide it.
Don't hide it. It just makes no sense.
They can't work for you if they don't know what you're making.
Right. And so, you know, we were not as loud as we could have been. I think we should have been. I think that would have been really helpful, attracting, you know, higher end talent that was looking for the next thing. And we did get an amazing team, don't get me wrong, but it took a while. And I think that the momentum or the moment where we raised money, it took us longer to get to the final product, longer than we would have wished. And so, yeah, in retrospect, definitely do that. Be loud, be proud, go to meetups. I know it's COVID, but you know, now it's all remote work, so maybe not so much. But yeah, do that. And you know, ultimately, we were able to find somebody that really helped us get to our network stack the way we wanted it to. That was actually we found it on GitHub. You know, just looking at people's work more than, you know, we didn't. I said, you know what, I can't hire someone from LA. Maybe they're too expensive, or maybe there's just nobody around that we could find. And so let's just go.
They're all employed.
Get whoever we want and we need. And so that's kind of how you and I got connected. And so this guy,
this was actually Alan Stagner, who worked on Netcode.io, and he did a port. I believe he did a C# port of it at that point. And so made a super Netcode.io, and then that became the basis of your Netcode foundation for your project in some form.
So we, you know, first we needed to make sure, look, can we run it on that iPhone 4, right? Can we run it at 60 frames? Can we put a server on the phone? Can we make the game run there? Can we have the two peers connecting? And so once we got that running, it was awesome. Yeah, we got our stack that we call Neon, which is basically Netcode.io, Reliable.io, which are some of the two major projects you published open source, the C# version of that. And then we built.
So it was actually a native C# rewrite of them, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
It wasn't even like a binding Unity to a DLL.
Yeah. So we use Unity as a client. I said from the get-go, look, we need
got to go native.
Focus and double down on C#. We're going to get engineers that can do full stack. Basically.
And at this time, there's really no high quality networking solution from Unity.
No, definitely not at the time. And certainly not something that we could get open source or something that we could just have complete control over.
You got to be able to modify it and change it and extend it. Yeah.
So
otherwise you don't control your destiny.
Yeah, so we got our actually Alan was incredible. I mean, the speed at
Yeah.
which he was able to iterate was phenomenal. And that's the kind of person you want in your startup, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he brought in entity management system. We got snapshots, Delta snapshotting, all that stuff. And obviously, we got even new early on to be able to advise on some of the changes we made early on that were really
I think
instrumental.
we just talked about the Quake network model and some basics, and you folks just got it straight away and off you went.
Yeah. So that was awesome. And then once we got it running and we knew that it could have been done, then we're like, okay, great. Now we can focus on this. And so we focused, we did more tooling on our stack, and then ultimately released the product that, you mentioned earlier, is called Armajet. It's a 4 versus 4 real-time multiplayer shooter, reminiscent of, it's people have dubbed
sort
it
of like Metal Slug and Soldat and all of those classic 2D slide shooters.
A lot of folks, they dubbed it like a Super Smash with guns. That was the easiasier pitch, I think.
That's pretty good.
The easier elevator pitch. And we have it out. It's growing to this day. We have a lot of fun playing it and continue making content for it. And that was obviously something I wanted to do since I was little. I grew up with Metal Slug at the arcades, and just it's something that was very dear to me, and I wanted to bring it to phone. And so once we got to that point, I think we were at, we got to a team of I think 15 by the time we released it. And that's like the peak of the dream, right? Like build your own studio, make the game you want, grow a team, and
get it out. And then, of course, after raising money, building a team and executing on the product is the hard part. But the real hard part starts when you actually launch the game.
Yeah. So at this point,
what was that like for you?
Well, so this is mobile. The world of mobile end of 2019. The week before we launch, Call of Duty Mobile launches.
Oh my God.
So we're like, damn it, so obviously it's slightly different kind of game, right? It's not a platformer shooter, but still, now, again, you get an audience now that look, I want to focus on one game. I want to invest my time and my money in one game. And that's how long it took us to get to that point, to be able to hire the team, to be able to distribute the load and make the game, right? I think about back when we were at Activision and had a game basically feature complete, but not to the point where we wanted it to be, right? So but still,
you went and completely rewrote it and rebuilt the team and redid everything.
We were very proud of it.
Bottom up.
The art, the tech is amazing. It's just so much better than what it was originally, and we have a team to work on it. So extremely proud of it. A little scared, of course, of the competition, but our game is still right across the street from us. But the game is still different. It's still a somewhat different kind of audience, and they like similar games, but it's still very much different. So people that like 3D first-person shooters will play your Fortnite on the phone, or Call of Duty, or Valorant when it comes out, or the other clone. What is it? NetEase clone that came out soon with somebody else that just made it.
The next Battle Royale.
Yeah, next Counter-Strike on the phone, basically. And so we're fortunate enough to be able to focus in a slightly different direction. We started doing our acquisition campaigns, but ultimately, we wanted to focus on building great games and building.
You're looking at retention curves. You're looking at engagement. You're looking at marketing spend, how much it costs per user to get in. Tell me about all this stuff. It's a science and an art. You don't just launch the game and throw it out there.
Yeah. So we were able to, as a studio, we shifted from focusing so much on marketing and pushing the game to really focusing on building the game. And we actually outsourced some of the marketing around the game, because we want to focus on making great games. And so our step and our focus this year has been, building upon the content we have and building upon Armajet. We actually released a new version of Armajet. It's called High Stakes, with a very different way that we're monetizing it through the skills platform. And now we're working on another game that we're actually pitching right now to write different publishers. I can't speak too much about it, but just the transition of becoming a multi-game company,
a multi-team studio. That's
extremely exciting. So I'm very much looking forward to having multi games. I mean, I guess we do have High Stakes, the version of Armageddon we released. So that's already 2 games.
Yeah. Well, what's what's a studio without 3 games at the same time? So Nicola, really incredibly impressive. Thanks for sharing your story. And folks, you heard it here, the story of somebody starting from playing in esports, becoming an engineer, and working as an engineer, joining a company, going along for a great ride, and ultimately starting his own studio, creating a multiplayer game he always wanted to make, succeeding, getting it out there in front of players, and it's still live today. How many years has it been live?
So we were actually early beta in, I want to say 2016, 20.
So 5 years. You've had this game
well,
out in
worldwide
some
we've
form for
been
5 years.
Worldwide we've
That's
been less than
incredibly
2 years. Yeah, worldwide we've been less than 2 years, but in closed beta, closed alpha, we were like for almost 5 years. Yeah. So yeah, we have folks that remember us from like the early alpha when we released like our homemade trailer on YouTube.
That's amazing.
So yeah, this was back when it was still like very much 2D art, the old code base, like very shoestring. So yeah, people remember that.
That's awesome. So now tell me, to somebody thinking about beginning their own journey, making a studio or even making their own multiplayer game, what's your advice at the end of this journey to them?
So it's funny. One tidbit is when I hire folks, people are always they looked at the agreement. When you bring someone in the company, and sometimes they're pretty restrictive. They're like, listen, you can't do any work. You can use work equipment, which is pretty standard. But in ours, we deliberately put in like, look, if you do work on your own time at home, like it's your product, it's your stuff. And actually, when I am hiring engineers, I have somewhat of an expectation that people will moonlight. People will go home and
cut their teeth and do their own thing. I mean, that's how do you
yeah,
think?
And actually, like if somebody's not doing that, if somebody's not doing that, almost like, are you not curious?
You think somebody paid me to learn? That was my weekends and when I got home after work in the games industry for decades.
Yeah. So
right,
yeah. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me. I had a passion for something else. I loved what I did at work, but I wanted to experiment and mess with other stuff. And so I had that expectation. So, where are you coming from, right? So are you at a company now where you're comfortable, but you're thinking about, building your own studio? What do you bring to the table? Do you think that you have an opportunity in a market that's still undiscovered, untapped? That's kind of what I felt it was like. Obviously I had a personal wish to have a game that suited to myself, but that's not always, that doesn't always work. But do you have that conviction of how convinced are you that what you have is,
I have to do this and I will succeed no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. And so like,
step one.
And look, you're not always gonna be right. I've been wrong so many times. But even when I was playing esports, through practice, practice makes perfect, of course, but like through practice, I was able to know everybody that was my competition, right? And I knew that I had something that was better in some respects and I could play to those strengths. And so the same comes here, do you want to have a studio because you want to build games, because you think there's a new platform you want to get into? Okay, maybe that's a VC play, right? VCs are very interested in extremely high growth companies, right? I mean, they're 1 out of 10 VC companies actually really makes it. It's got a 30x multiplier, and that's really what the VC investment sphere is really looks for. Maybe you just want to have a studio and stick to more of the studio model, right? Find a publisher.
Now you've got the lifestyle company versus the VC scalable product company. Right. And that's a very interesting choice you have to make when you create a company. Which of the two paths are you going on, or somewhere in between?
Where's your thrill? Is it because you really love games and you have a good creative spirit behind you, or is it just the opportunity of the market, right? And I think that really changes where you want to find the money if you don't have it on your own, of course. Like, publishers, you're seeing Microsoft and Sony gobbling up studios left and right, obviously, right?
It's a cycle that comes and goes. Yeah.
So you're seeing Insomniac just like get a AAA game out every year, which is like ridiculous.
Oh, those guys are crazy.
Incredible studio.
Crazy good.
They just announced like Wolverine today. It's like, Jesus. Anyway, they're unstoppable. Good for them.
Stop making us look bad, Insomniac. Come on.
Yeah. And so, what are you looking for? And so for us, initially, we wanted to get Armajet out. Ultimately, like, we're game makers. We want to make a game. We don't know anything about investment or capital or how to manage that. We know how to grow a team. We know how to make a game, right?
Yeah.
And not even a console game, a game that lived on the web and then on the phone. So not even traditional games, if you will, back 10 years ago, right?
Mhm.
And so at first, actually, we went to publishers. We actually had quite a few conversations with EA, and there was a possibility for us to attach our game to an IP of theirs.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
That can be quite a credible option, right? This
yeah,
is not it's not something to be scoffed at.
no,
Many
and
studios have created their companies and studios and original IP off the back of years of doing work for hire or other people's IP. There's
yeah,
nothing wrong with it. No shame in this at all.
yeah,
But you
absolutely. And I
chose a
think,
different path, Nicola.
and the only reason why we didn't choose that path is just because what we were trying to do was something that was still relatively new, where having the marketing machine of EA behind us would have been
Oh,
incredible.
They're
Like, it would have
they're
been
really, really, really good at it.
an enormous opportunity. And I think that if anybody's in that position, that they should definitely think about it. And we did for a long time.
Mhm.
But ultimately, we felt that with the experience we had with live ops and growing a live ops based game, again, this is 2015, 2016, like there's no Apex, there's no, doesn't exist, right? The big publishers and companies they're not used to that model.
Mhm.
So
The live
time,
services model. Yeah.
right. So we're not looking to sell it for $60, at Christmas. And so,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean, we decided to go the investment round. We were fortunate enough to have that opportunity. And we took it.
Cool. Awesome. Nicola, thank you so much for your time today. Pleasure to have you on the show. And everybody check out superbitmachine.com and check out Armajet. Okay.
Thanks, Glenn.
See you later. Thank you, everybody. Cheers and good night.
Here's the hard truth. The internet doesn't care about your game. After all the blood, sweat and tears you put into making your game, you launch, and some players get terrible network performance. What can you do about it? Build your own internet? This is why we created Network Next. Network Next is a radically new way of linking networks together. It's a new internet. One where networks compete on a neutral marketplace to carry your game's traffic. Network Next puts you, the game developer, in control of the network. We monitor every player's network performance and you choose when to accelerate them. Not only will you see better network performance for your players, you'll also have the security of knowing that if one network is congested, we switch to another in seconds. Now you control the network.